Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, everybody talking about this case in New York, where a number of officers were pelted by a number of individuals. They were throwing ice snowballs, some of them with rocks, at these officers. Some of the officers had to be taken to the hospital. This was not a fun snowball fight. These were officers just getting pelted and being incredibly restrained as they were being beaten with snowballs that were pounding them in the head. That can hurt a lot, especially when you see them smushing it in their face and then throwing it right at their heads. And now what happens with the mayor of New York? He says, it was just all in fun and jest. Jessica Tisch, who was the NYPD commissioner, came out and said, this is criminal. Whoever did this should be held responsible. But Mayor Mandani, who certainly has had a very questionable attitude towards the police, that's the nicest thing I can say. Well, take a listen to what he said about what he says was just a little fun snowball fight.
I can just tell you from the video I saw, it looked like kids at a snowball fight. Look, I've seen the videos of this snowball fight. I think that it was a snowball fight.
Well, the police that were there said it was not a snowball fight. We weren't fighting. If it's a snowball fight and you're having fun, both sides are throwing snowballs. That wasn't the case. From the video you see, it looks like they're just being attacked savagely by these guys that were throwing. And you see them on video. Should be easy to bust them. They're all on video throwing the snowballs, pounding the police officers, and it looks like one-way attacks. And yet this mayor better step up because he certainly is not showing support for the great men and women in the NYPD. And earlier today on Cats and Cosby, we talked to Vincent Valalong. He is the head of the Sergeants Benevolent Association. This is what he said.
Complete and total disgust is what I felt. I still feel it today. And we've gotten to this point clearly because we have people up top that are supposed to lead this city. They need to realize that they are no longer activists. They are leaders of the biggest city in the world and the most important city in the world. And they're sending a clear message to people into the next coming few months when it gets warmer out, that it's okay to put their hands on police officers. That's the message that he's sending. And he doesn't realize it. And his little smirks on TV and when he's being interviewed and when he's being questioned at the podium, really, to be honest, I don't understand how you can be a public figure like that and you're just showing your disgust for the situation. It's time to show leadership. I mean, that's what you do. That's why you run for these positions. That's my point. I mean, I'm really, really beside myself because, those guys showed a lot of restraint. Those cops took a lot of abuse. And you're right. It was not a snowball fight. I don't know what it was that the mayor was watching or what videos he's being shown. Because this isn't Peanuts like Charlie Brown where we're having little cute fights going back and forth. They were throwing ice and there was stones inside the ice at these cops left and right. And the cops kept their composure the whole time.
Stones inside the ice, inside snowballs thrown at police officers' heads. I'd say that's assault. And they're all on videotape. Let's see if they arrest somebody. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I bet you Jessica Tisch, she's come out and said this is not appropriate. Obviously, what happened to these officers. She's not criticizing the mayor. She serves at the pleasure of the mayor. But, I mean, you could tell they're clearly in a different path because you got Mayor Mandani saying, oh, this is all just fun and games. Can you imagine? What if it was a bunch of Muslims that were walking by praying at a mosque and they were getting pelted? Would Mayor Mandani say that's a snowball fight? I would hope not, because I would not want to see any group abused with snowballs with rocks inside of ice. That could actually be deadly. And they need to throw the book at these people. And I'm waiting to see if they will actually do something. If Mayor Mandani will actually do something as opposed to minimize it. That says volumes. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Well, President Trump, by the way, put out a big Truth Social post just a little bit ago. And he really took it to what he says the squad members, Ilhan, Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, for their very rowdy behavior last night in the State of the Union address, calling for them, get this, for them to be, quote, institutionalized. Here's his quote on Truth Social. President Trump saying, when you watch low IQ Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib as they screamed uncontrollably last night at the very elegant State of the Union, such an important and beautiful event, they had the bulging, bloodshot eyes of crazed people, lunatics, mentally deranged and sick, who, frankly, look like they should be institutionalized. And they did act like they were out of hand. I mean, especially Ilhan Omar, who was like shouting at them left and right. It was like she was like a mad woman. Like, and I kept thinking, this woman's an elected member of Congress. And then, of course, everyone's talking again about this moment. I wanted to play it again because this encapsulates the entire State of the Union address when none of the Democrats would stand for putting American citizens over illegal aliens.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I agree. They should be ashamed of themselves. And yet, here's Pramila Jayapal, Democrat of Washington State, another member of the squad. She was on MS Now, and this was her message to President Trump.
I want to talk about one tactic the president used last night, calling on members to stand. The president clearly trying to box Democrats in there. What was the message Democrats who stayed seated were intending to send?
The message is that he's the one who should be ashamed of himself.
He's the one who should be ashamed of himself for what, calling them out? They did act like lunatics when they were screaming at him, absolutely screaming at him. And then Ilhan Omar, I mean, you would have thought she was in like a WWE match. I mean, just to see her and Pramila Jayapal wearing, first of all, that crazy F ice pin, that was completely inappropriate. But then the shouting and the screaming, these people were completely out of control, and they did look like lunatics. And so here is Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, Democrat of New York. Get this. She took offense to the fact that there were people that were being honored there, like the Medal of Honor recipients, honoring the widows who lost loved ones, who lost their husband or lost their daughters, the angel moms, those people who deserve to be heralded. Well, Yvette Clarke didn't seem to think it was a positive affair. Listen to this.
I was there, and it was as horrific as I thought it would be.
Did you leave early?
Absolutely.
It was like an award show. You get a medal. You get a medal. You get a medal.
That is crazy. An award show because he was honoring these people. Those moments were so memorable. They were so incredible. I love the guys getting the Medal of Honor. I love also the guy, the National Guardsman, who got the Purple Heart. Andrew, who survived that horrible shooting. And yet they were mocking it like it was an award show, like you're not supposed to celebrate America or American greatness. That really is a sad new low in American politics. There were a couple of them that were asleep. I think I'd rather have them asleep. Then they could at least say maybe they didn't hear these great things, and they could just say, oh, well, I missed it because I was asleep. Well, there were a lot of them that were very much awake, but they would not move. They would not stand, even for some really incredible, incredible moments. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 3. Joaquin, your thoughts tonight?
Good evening, Miss Rita. I will seriously tip my Stetson to you right now. You are a real virtuoso. You played Teddy like a Stradivarius. Oh, my gosh.
It was one beautiful orchestra, didn't you think?
It certainly was. I think that most of us want to be your number one caller, but I'm going to tell you right now, I really think that Teddy should take that place because, damn, did he make you look good. Your responses to him were just, I was laughing. I was laughing so hard. I love
where Ted was like, like I was like, can you get out the word? Poor Ted. Ted is so caught up in his Trump derangement syndrome that he doesn't realize what he's saying is crazy.
I know. I have one quick message for him, though. I know he always likes to say he's a math and science teacher and that, we should listen to him because he's so smart. But my youngest brother happens to be a math and science teacher also, and he taught the gifted classes. In other words, college level, high school,
wow.
Trigonometry. All the top stuff. And I think that Teddy maybe is a remedial math teacher.
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe Teddy is listening and he can call back and clarify it for us because I'm not actually sure. But I will say Teddy seems like a very nice man. The one thing I will say that I do believe Teddy is patriotic. I just think he's confused. So I'll give him that. I definitely will give him that. He seems like a very nice man. I'll always defend Teddy because I think he does have a good heart. He's just kind of caught up on the Trump derangement train. But go ahead, Joaquin.
And you see, the problem with the Trump derangement train is this, okay? And I always kind of, have to say this. First of all, the history of the world is one of those who are conquered and those who do the conquering, okay? And unfortunately, if we listen to these Democrats, we will be conquered. We will be the conquered. And when they say that there's too much patriotism in there was not enough. That closing statement that President Trump made, that was just incredible. And when you listen to these Democrats, obviously they hate this country. People hate Donald Trump because of the way he stands for this country and puts this country and the American citizens first and wants to put us into our rightful place. As the rest of the world is being conquered by outsiders, by Islam and whatever you name it, America is still the one beacon that is standing. And we have people that really seriously want to destroy the country. So I really hate to call them my fellow Americans anymore, and I hate to say it, but Teddy is one of those who just wants to be conquered. Originally, you're also talking about the police and the snowballs. I'm sorry, there should have been hickory shampoos going on there. And this is exactly, what the whole problem is with the police retention now, because, they've made it so difficult. And I hate to say it, I speak Matt. I understand what Matt was actually trying to say. Is that, the New York City Police Department, the reason why they have no retention is because that they basically made it, you can be a criminal to be a cop now.
Yeah, they're afraid to respond. They are afraid to respond. And I think about, I don't know if you heard earlier today, Joaquin, we had on Katz and Cosby, Rudy Washington was with me and John and the judge. And Rudy was deputy mayor under Rudy Giuliani. Obviously, America's greatest mayor. And I think about and he was saying how under Rudy's days, the Rudy and Rudy train, those people would have lasted about 5 seconds before they didn't get, pulled into the pokey. They would have been, right. Criminal number one. I mean, you don't go around assaulting a police officer. That's what that is. And the fact that they were putting rocks in these snowballs, I mean, this was not fun and jest. I didn't see them playing with the individuals. They were responding to an unruly situation, and they got ambushed and pounded on, and they didn't do anything, to your point, because they're afraid to get hauled in by, internal, review, that the internal review will pull them in if they start to even lay a hand. Then, it's terrible. And I haven't seen all the footage, but I think Dom was saying that the attackers were African American and the officers were white. Is there a racial component? Were they also afraid to respond, that they get accused of being racist or something? I mean, how sad is it that officers have to take being attacked in their mind? I don't think they have to, but I think they certainly feel like they have to. And then after all of that, they don't even have a mayor who stands up for them. That to me is disgraceful. Joaquin, real quick.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing. That's really designed to denigrate these officers is what it really was, and that's a prime example of our nation being conquered for this to be allowed, because now these poor officers had to basically put their tails between their legs, and hightail it out of there. This should not be allowed. And it was the same thing with the ICE raids that were going on. They should have had a bus down there. They should have been arresting people left and right for this and not taking any of it, because this is only a bad example, and it's only going to encourage more behavior like this.
No, you hit it on the head, Joaquin. You're right. They got to clamp down on it. You cannot allow that slippery slope, because then others feel even more emboldened, 100%. Joaquin, thank you. We always love hearing from you. 1-800-848-9222, and you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls, guys. Let's go to Steve from Brooklyn on line 3. Go ahead, Steve. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi again, Rita. Just a quick comment. Ice as a substance is not moldable once it's frozen. In order to encase rocks in ice, you have to put it in a freezer to do that, and it shapes the mold. That means it was premeditated.
Are you an ice snowball expert, I guess,
I was
Steve?
a scientist. I know all the properties of water and
Steve.
ice. In other words, you can't just throw a stone into an ice thing. There's no way to make sure it will stay in it. You have to freeze it in the freezer unit.
But how about if you're out there, can't you just put a little bit of a rock if you find it on the street and put it in soft, especially if the snow is soft, which it was. It was very soft.
The size of the injuries that they gave to the heads of the poor police, that was a fairly sizable stone, like a kind of a nut in a fruit,
wow.
Like a peach.
Wow. And also, let me ask you this, Steve. That's an interesting point that you bring up. Because they were called for an unruly protest. Who knows if, like you said, if it was a setup, right? A setup, like a premeditation. How much of an injury could that be? If you throw something like that at somebody's head, that's very, very dangerous.
It's a rock. It's basically a rock disguised in snow. And that means they meant to do this. They prepared it way in advance so that it would stay frozen until they threw them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Steve, you're right, because that shows preparation, it shows planning, it shows intent. And I hope that also raises the type of assault, because there's, of course, different levels. Listen, I first hope they go after these guys, because it's horrible.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, this is wild information coming in about a firefight that they claim happened. We're talking about the Cuban national authorities apparently opening fire on a boat that they say was right off the coast of Cuba. They say it was a Florida registered speedboat. And now the Cubans tonight are claiming that those on board were armed, that they were Cuban nationals who were living in the United States, and they were posing a threat to Cuba. It's unclear if any of that's true, because this is just what the Cuban government is saying. But what happened is when they opened fire, they killed 4 people. 6 others are seriously injured. And now we're trying to find out exactly who was on that boat, what was it all about, and were they really any sort of threat to Cuba, or is Cuba just opening fire on American boats that are in that area? Of course, there's a lot of tensions happening between the U.S. and Cuba. Certainly, oil is drained up on Cuba because they were relying on Venezuela. And guess what? Venezuela is no longer supplying it to Cuba. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But here is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, talking about what they know about this shootout right off the coast of Cuba. And this really escalates tensions big time.
So this was not U.S. government personnel? There was no U.S. government operation yet?
No.
Have you spoken to Cuban officials about this?
No. We haven't spoken directly about this now? No, I'm not going to comment about any conversations we've had on this topic. Suffice it to say, what it's important to be out there and everyone needs to know is that we're going to have our own information on this, and we're going to figure out exactly what happened. And there are a number of things that could have happened here. But I'm not even going to speculate as to what it could have been. It's a wide range of things. But suffice it to say, it is highly unusual to see shootouts in open sea like that. It's not something that happens every day. It's something, frankly, that hasn't happened with Cuba in a very long time.
So we're going to get to the bottom of that and keep you posted. The Cuban embassy now tonight saying that there were Cuban nationals, people born in Cuba but living in Florida, and they say they posed a threat to Cuba. We'll try to find out more on that. Meantime, everybody talking about the State of the Union. It was historic, it was patriotic, and it was fabulous. But the Democrats refused to stand up, even for American heroes. Just some really shameful moments. And here is Congresswoman Catherine Clark, Democrat of Massachusetts, asked about the Democrats that were interrupting the State of the Union and their behavior.
We saw several interruptions from some of your Democratic colleagues who chose to attend the speech, including Congressman Al Green of Texas and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, who was a guest here in the Situation Room this hour. Was that a productive way to speak out against Trump and his agenda by shouting and screaming during the course of his remarks?
Listen, we have a president who continuously goes before the American people and spews lies and misinformation. And I think for some of my colleagues, that was their way of pushing back.
Their way of pushing back. Like, it's okay to be disruptive. It's okay to be unruly. It's okay to not even stand for angel moms. I can't even imagine. I feel like I was watching the Twilight Zone last night when I was watching the Democrats. And even CNN, listen to this, they had speech watchers, and they took a bit of a poll right afterwards, and it was actually pretty good for President Trump. Listen to this.
Among speech watchers tonight, 64% say his policies will move the U.S. in the right direction. And look at the growth President Trump made over the speech. So pre-speech, it was 54% of speech watchers said his policies will move the U.S. in the right direction. After the speech, that number goes up 10 percentage points. So Donald Trump made some progress with people watching the speech from their pre-speech expectations to what they saw in the speech itself.
So you just heard it there. 64% of speech watchers, this is from CNN, say that President Trump's policies are moving the country in the right direction. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Steve in New Jersey on line 1. Go ahead, Steve. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. How you doing today?
Good. What did you think of the speech?
I thought it was an amazing speech. I watched the whole thing from beginning to end. And, unlike some of your callers, I actually know what's going on in the world. I'm a retired police officer. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel, served in 4 combat zones, like I told you, as call screener.
Wow.
I wasn't going to say anything about the thing that happened with the police officers, Rita, but that was overwhelming assault. And it could have been assault with a deadly weapon or aggravated assault, depending on what state you're in. So that's just a sideline. But I just wanted to say that the evil behavior pattern and the enemy behavior pattern of the opposition, the Democrats, and their display, their immaturity was so overwhelming. I don't think it's curable. I don't think it is. And I think we're in a situation, Rita. If we don't fix this, we're heading for civil war. And you know what? Maybe that's what'll fix it, because we're not going to fix it cooperating with the likes of Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and all these other idiots. They are disgusting and pathetic. They want to dissolve our country. That's what they want to do. Just like the president say, they are crazy. They're lunatics. That one from Minnesota, the one that
Ilhan Omar,
all of a sudden became. Yes, the one that has $30 million now when she had like $200 when she joined Congress.
Yeah, the one who supposedly married her brother. Yeah, that one.
Yes. And then, by the way, and a sideline too, I'm a retired police officer, but I'm also a retired immigration service officer. I retired last October. So I'm an expert on immigration. She's in total violation of our immigration laws and probably should have her citizenship revoked just for that. And probably based on her behavior pattern, if she's also found to be guilty of some of the frauds that she's going to be investigated for, probably kicked out of the country. And I think that's probably the best for our country. Anybody
and by the way, you're right, if she did have clear knowledge, and I say if because they're investigating, if it turns out, I agree. I think she's automatically should be removed from the country if it turns out that she was aware of it. I mean, some of her behavior is so crazy. I think about, Steve, after 9/11. Remember, she said, 9/11, some people did something. Remember that line? That was so reprehensible. I remember that, some people did something, and she wouldn't condemn the violence against our country. And by the way, guys like me are not going to stand for this, okay? And I guarantee you this, Rita. We have 15 or 20 million men like me that serve the country. We're veterans, we're experts, and we're all kind of standing by going, we're not going to let you dissolve our country. We're not going to let you have a bunch of lunatic idiots running our country wearing these animal clothing things, doing protests and everything else. We're not going to let that happen. Okay, this is not some weird country in the continent of Africa. This is the United States of America. We've allowed some of these politicians to get away with this stuff over these years, and they've built up their behavior pattern because they feel emboldened that they can get away with this. So how do we turn this around? I hear you. So how do we turn this around, Steve? Because you obviously love this country.
Well, number one, okay, I don't believe that these people are actually winning these races. I believe there's so much fraud, like in Minnesota and various places throughout the United States of America, but mostly in blue districts, that they have been able to get away with this, be voted in by fraud, and we haven't fixed this. And the president knows this, and that's why he wants to get the voter ID law in effect, because he believes this. He believes he's been victimized by fraud, and I do too, believe that he's been victimized by fraud when it comes to the elections. And if we can fix that with the ID, I think that's the first cure. We do not need idiots like this in any position of power, authority, or any political position in our country, or we're going to commit national suicide. And that we're doing it incrementally, but that's what's happening before our very eyes. Trump was our last hope. If we don't fix this under Trump, we're still in a tailspin downward.
Well, and that's why, last night you heard him talk about the SAVE Act, which is the Voter ID Act.
Absolutely.
And yet they weren't even applauding on that. One of my favorite lines was President Trump said last night that he brought up the Mayor Mandani in New York, Steve, where he said, it's really ironic that you need 2 IDs to shovel snow in New York, which is the case. You had to show all this ID, but yet to vote, come on in. It's racist. It's this, it's that. If you ask for ID to vote, I mean, there's nothing more sacred, as you understand all too well, Steve, than voting and in a democracy. And we all are in this great country together. And yet, I agree. I felt very sad last night to watch the Democrats. And I really felt it was one of the lowest political acts I think I've ever seen. I was very offended that it was like 75 I've seen by different accounts didn't even come. Democrats didn't even come. So 75 didn't even come. And then the ones who came to see Ilhan Omar screaming, it was beneath the office of any member of Congress, anybody. If you're sitting there and you have the president of the United States, and I've met Biden, if I saw Biden down the street, I would say, hello, Mr. President. I didn't agree with a lot of his policies. I didn't agree with him opening the border. He did some really disastrous things to this country. There's no doubt. but I respect the office. And there was such a lack of decorum by the Democrats last night. There was no excuse for that. And I do worry, to your point, Steve, that we're really hitting such a bottom of the barrel moment and such a divisive moment. And it's also a midterm year. I don't see them turning it around. I see them, what they stand for is they stand against Trump. And that's a very sad place to be. Trump even said this last night, I think it was, Steve, that he could cure cancer. And they would say, oh, why'd you do that? That's not nice to the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, they are in such Trump derangement syndrome, they can't see past it. Steve, you're terrific. You got to call back again. You're really, really great. Your perspectives are wonderful. And also, thank you for your great service to this country, because obviously you have served our country in so many great capacities. Thank you very much. Let's go to Roger in Ohio on line 3. Roger, your thoughts tonight.
Rita, I'd like to know if the mayor has opened himself up to be the friendly target of a friendly snowball fight with some spectators next time the mayor addresses a group, and the surrounding cops, they can just kind of
just have a little fun, right? Just a little happy. Yeah. I mean, obviously you don't want anything to happen to anybody, but the fact that with rocks, I mean, that the fact that he is so quick to dismiss it. Oh, it's a snowball fight that just got out of hand. Boys will be boys. I mean, that is ridiculous. But you know, the problem is, Roger, it comes on the heels of him wanting to kill the strategic response group. It comes on the heels where he has said defund the police in general, where he's put a freeze on hiring 5,000 officers. So this is just indicative of his behavior. And for him to say that, now he is the sitting mayor. And I can't imagine how many chances this guy has gotten to redeem himself from his horrible comments in the past against police and Jews and others. There's a lot of people in that group that he's disgraced and said horrible things about. So he has this moment, and he can't even rise to a basic occasion. I mean, you're looking at the video. You see the cops being pelted. You see them taking it at an incredible restraint by our men and women in blue, not going over and throwing these people on the ground and arresting them right then and there. And yet he can't even support the police. It's disgusting, Roger.
Well, and another thing, Rita, is what happens down the line. Everybody, all the thugs are seeing how the police are going to respond. And, I mean, what happens when the knives come out or the clubs? I mean, it seems to me these thugs should have had a nice, innocent, friendly hickory shampoo as soon as the first cop got hit.
Yeah, and the problem is the cops are afraid to take action, and you can't really blame them because they're afraid that they're going to get hauled in for questioning by the internal review unit. They're going to say, oh, that wasn't nice. You wonder if race played a part in it. There were apparently white officers, African Americans who were throwing the snowballs. Were they worried about being accused of being racist when that obviously had nothing to do with it? Were they worried about, being accused of like, okay, you got to show your ID. You're going to go in review. We're going to take you off the streets. You were mean to these wonderful, nice, sweet boys who were just happened to be having fun with you. Under this mayor, I think they're very worried. Don't you think, Roger? And that's sad.
Yes, but their non-response is at their own risk.
Well, it could have been at their own risk, you're right, physically wise, but you can't blame them because they feel so demoralized under this mayor and the way that the structure has been. So many of them have been called in. They've got to put a report out. What happened? Where this? As opposed to look at the video. You see what happened. And maybe they're worried about being doxxed too. Who knows? I mean, either way, I agree with you. But I think they're afraid if they responded like they should have responded. And I agree with you. That's why I brought up the Rudy Giuliani case. We had Rudy Washington, the deputy mayor, on the earlier show, and he was saying they would have lasted about 5 seconds under the old Rudy and Rudy regime. And guess what? Right. That's what those thugs needed. But
this is it's only going to worsen, Rita.
It is. And by the way, I worry about this, which is why we have to stand up for our men and women in blue. Your point is absolutely correct, and you're right. Maybe they need to just do the appropriate things, and the public will be supportive of them. I agree. Although that's a very, they're nervous, I'm sure, about doing it. And that's also very sad under this mayor. That speaks volumes of this mayor. Roger, thank you. Really great points. And let's pray for our men and women in blue. It's a tough situation for them out there. You guys, we're going to continue after the break. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a powerful story from Washington, D.C. You guys all saw it live last night. You heard it here on the Rita Cosby Show. President Trump honoring Korean war hero Royce Williams during the State of the Union, decades after his classified dogfight with Soviet jets was revealed to America. During the State of the Union address, President Trump awarded retired Navy Captain E. Royce Williams the Congressional Medal of Honor. It was one of the great moments last night when he did that, honoring him for his heroism during a 1952 Korean dogfight. Williams shot down 4 Soviet MiG-15 jets all by himself. He survived damage to his aircraft, and his actions were classified for decades before being publicly recognized. And boy, were they recognized in a huge, huge way last night. By the way, his aircraft was riddled with 263 bullet holes. That's amazing. And he was seriously hurt, yet he managed to guide his battered plane back for a high-speed landing on an American aircraft carrier. And how beautiful that he was recognized to America and the world, as we were talking earlier, one of the great moments of the State of the Union address. And everybody support America's military and first responder heroes. Donate just $11 a month to make such an enormous difference to the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They are the best out there, and Frank Siller is such a hero for everything he has done for America's heroes. Be sure to check out the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And by the way, tomorrow on the Rita Cosby Show, we'll definitely be talking more about State of the Union, the snowball fight, but also tomorrow, very skilled negotiators are going to be meeting with the Iranians. And that is coming as there are reports tonight that the U.S. wants Israel to make the first move. And there are also reports that F-22s have landed, American F-22 jets have landed in southern Israel in the last few hours. So is something major coming about? Is something major gearing up? Could there potentially be some sort of strike, whether it's by the U.S. or Israel, potentially coming in even maybe the next day or two? We will certainly keep you posted. Let's go really quick to Norm on line 1. Go ahead, Norm, your thoughts real quick.
My thoughts are free Cuba. That's my thoughts. Cuba has been a island prison since the 1960s. I think it's time. Those people can't leave.
No,
okay?
you're right. You're right. Cuba Libre, free Cuba. I've been there a couple times, Norm, and you're right. They can't leave, and we have to wonder what really happened with that U.S. boat. We'll hopefully find out more tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.